All right, brother. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Adjusting constantly to
Yeah,
this new way of living.
I
It's
know.
been good for me. It's pushing me to become technology savvy.
Okay.
There's all these other things going on, as a pastor dealing with people's grief. We had one of our youth teens, pass. But there's all this good stuff, too. More people want to talk, more people want to seek, and everybody's up in their game
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
technology.
Yeah. Well, you know what? So you're leading into a good thing here. So this is free advice from your uncle. This is our kickoff episode one. Finally getting to it. I know we've both been super busy and swamped. You dealing with a lot of things, with what's going on with what you do. And so I want to kind of take a minute for you and I both to introduce ourselves and tell people about a little bit about our background. We are truly, literally brothers. I grew up with this guy on the screen here with you, and we have a long life together
Yes, we
outside
do.
of it. This is truly my flesh and blood little brother here, who I'm proud to call my little brother. Love him to death. So I want you to take a minute and introduce yourself, give a little background about who you are, what you do, where you're from, and then I'll do the same, and then we'll kind of jump into our agenda for today.
Well, I just want to say hello to anybody watching. I'm Josh. I live in Detroit, grew up in Detroit, love Detroit, bleed Detroit. And I'm excited just to talk with you guys, just to chop up whatever we're talking about, whether it's something serious, whether it's something fun. I've had many hats. I've done many jobs. The last two jobs that I've done is I was a dean of a school, and then I transitioned fully into ministry, doing being a pastor. So
And in
yeah,
Detroit
many
Public
hats.
Schools too. Detroit
Yeah,
Public
Detroit
Schools
Public
too.
Schools.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
So again, my name is Paul, or Uncle Paul, if you will. We'll be your uncles during this time, and we'll give you our free advice. Now, here's what I also want to say in doing so before I give your intro. This is truly free, and we are not getting paid for this. Not one red cent. So, with these comments and suggestions and everything that people may have, we appreciate them, but we don't have a staff, we don't have a budget, so we're doing the best we can in terms of that. So my name is Paul. I grew up in the D. Also, I've my both of my brothers and family tease me about having every job you could probably think of under the sun. So, but my most recent current occupation um, is I'm a project program manager with a major healthcare company here in the city, and I do IT healthcare project and program management. And so I've been in IT in some capacity for 20 some years now, and in management, and had my own company, blah blah blah. So was also a firefighter in Detroit, so I love the D also. And love to get down there as much as I can, although I'm not currently staying down there, but we get down there frequently. So, but that's our background, and you'll if you keep tuning in, we'll try and get these out as much as time permits. We're both pretty busy guys. I have a full time job and family. Josh and his wife are busy also in terms of their schedules too. So. And one more thing too. Josh was also a youth pastor for a long, long time as well while he was working, and so has a ton of experience with kids. And I have a wife and four kids and a killer Shih Tzu. So that's kind of my family situation.
And
he, he
that is
lived
what makes you, that is the expertise right there. Having
right,
a
right there,
dog
right there.
that it's not even supposed to be your dog.
No,
But you know
no,
how that goes.
it's not. It's not my dog, and we have a tolerable relationship. I'll just leave it there. So at best. So Josh, we're gonna jump in. And again, I was really, we were going to focus on the COVID thing because that's what's consuming everybody's life. But I want to take just 5 minutes with everything that's gone. This has been just heavy on my heart, and just kind of talk to you about what happened with Ahmad Arbery, back on February, 23rd. And I know that you probably are getting a lot of comments and questions as a pastor as well. But in general, I have some thoughts and comments, and again, I don't want to make this a political show necessarily, but we're our podcast, but we're going to keep it real too. We're going to answer all kinds of questions. It's we'll do our best to give you honest answers, and we'll reference them too in terms of how we position them. So before we jump into that, though, I just want to make a comment and give you time to make a comment too, and it, I, all the slew of what I'm calling, the assassination of unarmed Black people has been heavy on my heart the past couple of years. And it's typically, though, been couched with a police officer involved. And there's a lot of people who, and I'll just say it too, there's a lot of good white people out there. And just again, so Josh and I are, we'll tell you the truth regardless. But there's a lot of white people who have always justified those with the officers, feared for their lives. And it's been a difficult conversation to have with people who earnestly want to hear and listen to your perspective in terms of what it's like to live in America as a Black person, And so when those incidents come up, it for me, it's always been couched by, well, the police, were justified, et cetera. With Ahmad, there is that line has been crossed. You cannot justify that at this point in time. Those two, men down there tracked him down and hunted him down like a dog, like an animal, and shot him to death because he was jogging, because they felt like they were in positions of authority. And I saw a comment on this Facebook group that it's called Christians Against Google. And they started just like as soon as the video came out this week, within a day and a half or two, they had 100,000 supporters. They're supporting these two men who killed this man in cold blood. And in their little title, a blurb they had there, these two godly men are being unjustly persecuted because, and I'm paraphrasing, because this guy didn't want to comply. And I struggle so greatly with all of that, right? Number one, you're calling these guys godly men, number one. Number two, what justifies them to make anybody comply with them? Because you have guns and you're armed. You are no longer police officers. And the one guy never was. The son never was, to my understanding. Yeah. So I'm struggling, Josh. I'm angry. I'm angry at the senselessness of this young man's life being taken, what that does to his family. And just continued polarization of race in this country as well, So I'm struggling with it. I still struggle with it. I think about it whenever that video blurb comes up. I get teary-eyed, man. I think about that being you or Pete or my sons or my sisters and their kids, and I'm struggling. I'm really struggling with it. And I'm struggling with trying to justify and tell people that this isn't just a chance thing. This happens all the time, So I want to give you a minute and then we'll move on to just kind of comment on it. But I didn't feel good about us jumping right into our first show with something like this taking place and not saying a little bit of something.
Well, what I want to talk about is not going to take a minute. Anytime one of these instances happen, first of all, this is not the first time we've had a person who's a pretend cop. We know this. Right. When we look at Trayvon Martin, and so I have, in my, just as a, let me back up a little bit and let everybody know who's watching that I'm mixed, that my mom's white. And I think that's a really important thing for me to say because she was the most important person in my life. And so my issue is not necessarily with white folks because I guess I would have to have half an issue with myself. My issue is with a system that is set against race and gender, if we're really being honest. And so, as a man, I'm realizing how much privilege I have and how much some of my actions are so sexist. And I know when we talk about privilege, people get upset, but the truth is men have privilege. White people have privilege. I know this. We've been driving with our mom and we got pulled over. I don't know if you remember, you probably remember this better than us. And they asked about the Black kids in the back and we're treating her so nice as a white woman, but we're looking at us like we might be doing something to her, only to find out we're her children. And so I've even seen that our mom was treated different than us. So
By the way, there's nobody kidnapping a bunch of black kids
yeah,
and
yeah, ain't
hauling
nobody,
them around.
ain't nobody, yeah, ain't nobody doing that just to be doing it. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
Especially
So
us,
listen,
especially us. Anyway, go ahead.
especially from deep hood, nobody doing that. I'm sorry.
Nope.
So, I mean, as an African American man, a mixed, but we're looked at as African Americans. That mixture
They
doesn't
don't,
really
when
mean
you
anything
pull
to,
over, they don't
yeah,
define and say
get
you're
this,
half
and
black.
in
You're
fact, there
treated
might
just
be some other
differently.
issues because of the fact that now we have to prove we're black enough at times. And so,
Yeah,
there's this dual thing going on. But
it's another
you know,
show topic.
yeah, am I black enough? But um, I'm angry because it devalues who I am. It says
Right.
my life is worthless.
Yep.
I'm angry. I have all sorts of thoughts that I just can't justify before God. One of the things that I told a guy today in the church, we were talking, and I said, when these moments happen, I have to recenter because the me as an African American man has all sorts of thoughts and feelings and opinions and things I might want to do. None of them would honor God. And God, I have to recenter, and God is always like, but you are first my child. Now, I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying that I still don't have this anger. I'm not saying that my anger is not justified. What I'm saying is that God is always whispering to me that first and foremost, I'm his child before I'm anything else, before I'm a product of Detroit, before I am African American. And I'll be honest with you, I struggle with that at times, as a
Let,
pastor.
let me ask you a question, Josh, because again, so just so you guys know, I mean, I think that Josh and I both come from a perspective of faith, but we're not necessarily aligned in terms of where we are regarding the current American fellowship model, and Josh and I are okay with that in terms of where we are, what he's doing. We still, care for each other deeply. And so I'm going to say this and couch it saying that I struggle with the American church model. We're talking through that quite frequently, but I don't want to get into that either. But Josh, I still feel strongly two things, and I want to get your perspective, and then I want us to kind of keep moving along here too. But number one, I don't feel like the racism and the systematic racism that you discussed earlier on in your conversation is going to get solved by black people protesting, right? We're in this case, we're the ones who the injustice is happening to. And I feel like it needs to be addressed by white people who don't feel that way. You can say that you don't feel that way, but for you to actually take a stand, that tells me that you really don't, number one, right? You should be protesting before, a bunch of us get together and march on Washington or march on Charlottesville or wherever it is. You should be on the forefront addressing your peers who are inciting and doing these things that are heinous, number one. And then number two, Josh, I'm going to tell you what, I think that the church, which you're, a part of, you're a pastor, and the white church in particular, their silence is deafening in all of this. And I hold them more culpable than just white people as a whole. So I just want to stop there. I'm not going to sugarcoat stuff. That's not me anyway, but I'm just telling you where it is and what I feel about it. And again, I'm not painting a broad brush, but it's pretty wide. And so I
Mhm.
just want to give you a minute to kind of comment.
Yeah, and again, for me, this is a longer conversation. Let me
Yes.
just say to anybody listening that I do a lot of racial righteousness. So I work with other churches. I'm a predominantly like 70% African American church, and so I spend quite a bit of time with churches that are predominantly white talking through this because the truth is, and some of these conversations are hard until our relationship is deepened. Some of it is I don't know if I can believe that this is your true experience until they know me better, and then they're like, and they watch me go through something like this, and because we have a relationship, they're like, oh my gosh, their eyes are opened, and so relationship matters. And so I do a lot of work in this area. This is an area that's important to me, being mixed. It's very important to me. Um, so I don't know how to, I mean, we need a whole segment for this because the
We
bottom line
do.
is race and religion have been mixed in America since its inception.
And
We
not
know
in a
that in the
positive,
15th
not in
century,
a positive way.
not in a
Yeah.
positive way, we know that in the 15th century in Portugal is where we see the first doctrine of discovery. It's not even called doctrine of discovery. It's the early form of it where we can go out and curb these savages in the name of Jesus. And really, savages was code word for anybody not white, and pillage while we do that. And
Pillage
so
and
we
rape, all
rape,
kinds of
kill.
heinous.
And so we know that in America, we're only maybe one of, maybe Australia's kind of the same, of two countries that literally was laid waste to in the name of white religion. White is right. And then, under the guise of religion. And then if we pillage and lay waste to a country because of that, then the only thing we're going to build on is also this white, is right in this religion. And so we have a society that literally began with, and his inception was this twisted theology. And so what I always tell people is bad theology is like polluted soil. Something will still grow in that soil, but it's a mutation of what it should be. And so we have this polluted theology. And just so you know, me and my brother have had many conversations about theology and church history, and there's been a pollution of theology, not just in America, but even when we see third and fourth century church, we see a pollution of a twistedness and so, I just think it's important. One of the things I'm realizing as I do this work is just like my malehood is invisible to me, it literally is invisible to me until women tell me stuff like, wow, you're saying that to me as if you're a woman and and I'm like, oh.
You're mansplaining.
And so, yeah, mansplaining. But really what that means is our invisible malehood and the privilege of that, we can't see it. So we really don't believe it exists because it's invisible. That too is true of whiteness. And even more so because this world, just as much as our world has been male dominated, it has been white dominated. And so those two go step hand in hand. And if I am a male, this idea that I have privilege because I'm a male offends me because that privilege is invisible to me because it's something I've always had with me. How could it possibly be privilege? It's just how it is. If I'm white, how could this be privilege? Or how could the system be so bent wrong when it's, it works for me, and it's invisible to me.
It's like breathing air for you being a man and breathing air for them being white, right? Yeah.
So I've learned that relationship matters. Not only me having a relationship with females who will tell me, that's crazy town. You're talking, that's some straight up male mess. But also, so I'm in relationship with folks so I can say, that is whiteness speaking right now. And you wouldn't know it because it's just who you are. It's what you know. And so, yeah, I'm not saying I'm not angry and I don't have issues. I'm just saying that part of it is if I just stay angry and I just stay having issues and I'm not willing to, put my feet down. And what I hear from quite a few African Americans is why do I have to be the one? If I'm the one who got beat down, why do I got to be the one to, why do I always got to be the one to take the brunt of and then lead into? And it's like, yeah, I understand that. I feel the weight of that. I'm tired. But that doesn't change the fact that nothing gets done, if I'm not willing. And so let me, Charlottesville, let me just speak to this since we're talking about it. The week that Charlottesville happened, I was supposed to preach. And I got to tell you, when it happened, way back, I was so angry, so upset. I had all this stuff going on inside of me that I know would not honor my relationship with God. But I'm human. I'm broken, and I'm viewing through this lens of what was done in brokenness. And so, about Wednesday, I felt like God and one of the other pastors was like, you need to change your sermon. You need to talk about this. And we were talking about, we did a spinoff of Game of Thrones and we were asking what is on the heart of, what sits on the heart, the seat, the throne of your heart. And so, I talked about race. I mean, we talked about race. We talked about identity. I talked about identity and what is your identity and does your identity is the thing that rules you? Does your whiteness rule you? Does your blackness rule you? Does your malehood rule you? Is that what pushes out into everything else, or is God? And one of the things I I felt like God asked me, maybe Wednesday or Thursday, is where do you think I was in this whole episode in Charlottesville? And, I'm like, you were with the protesters who were, doing justice. Now, that would be depending on who you are, right?
It's
You would
very
think either
interpretive.
side is justice, first of all, but I'm not talking about white nationalism. I was like, you can't be on that side. So I felt like, and I had watched a lot of video, and I felt like, and mostly it was peaceful on one side, and very, and I don't want to say not peaceful, but angry and militant on the other. And then there were some fights, skirmishes that broke out, and in one fight in particular, one of the white nationalists got beat up pretty bad and was laying on the side of the road. And so I felt like God said, do you think I was sitting with him while he was bleeding out? I'm being honest with you. I was like, nope. Because a minute ago he had a tiki torch acting a fool, and so
I don't want you to ask me that question.
and so, but God was like, you do know that he's still my creation, regardless of his heart, regardless of this brokenness. And I got to tell you, I preached on it and I was very honest about my feelings and what I was thinking. But then, having to recenter, that's a hard message. That's a hard gospel message. But it is a gospel message because we look at the Good Samaritan. We look at Jesus coming into our broken world and us doing him wrong and him still loving us. And so it's a hard thing because as a Black person, there's so much hurt. Every time this happens, all these scars from the years are peeled back. And plus we have intergenerational trauma. So our dads and moms, our grandparents spoke stuff into us from their hurt. So all that stuff is reopened up. And then God is saying, come to me with it.
It's tough to do though, and I'm just being honest with you too. I mean, it is tough to do, and again, so just so people know, I mean, we're starting out down this road, and this is not what the intent of our podcast and our show is, but we're here, we're just jumping right into it. I struggle with it though. Still, I understand what should the right answer is, Josh, with the whole thing. I'm just being honest with you. I'm struggling with the whole thing though, right? And I know what the right thing is to do. I know what the right response should be. Love your neighbor regardless. And I think that there was one photo that I think got like a lot of publicity of a young lady. I can't remember what city it was in. A Black woman, a young lady, African American young lady who was defending white nationalists there from people starting to beat him down too. And I'll have to find that. But again, her comment was, we shouldn't be doing that. Right. And they were out, preaching their hate against her, but she stepped in. It didn't even have anything to do with God necessarily, but that's the right thing to do from a humanity standpoint, as well as if you fall in covenant with God and Jesus, then it's definitely the right thing to do too. But I struggle with it. I'm just being honest with you in terms of,
And I'm telling you, I struggle through this as a pastor. My reaction, how I'm feeling, how do I even take this to God? How do I recenter? God, you see the pain of this. You see the brokenness of this. You see this messed up, twisted theology that is wrapped in nationalism and whiteness that it would make him sick.
It's on the same level as the cross.
It would make him sick. Here's
what we're going to do. I think we'll probably delve into, you and I, like you mentioned, both have a unique perspective. I think the ability, just like, to kind of poke both white and Black in the eye based on how we grew up. So I'm sure we'll end up doing it and keeping it real and legit on both sides too. But I think we'll end up hopefully getting some questions about things and and just keep it going forward. But I think it's a much longer conversation than what we have. So
and can I say this? If you're listening and I offend you today, whether you're white or Black, that's okay, because every time I speak, one side of me, I don't know which side, whatever side is white or Black, is offended too. Yeah. So
it's my goal to offend everybody at least one time during the day too. So you'll get it from me too. So All right. So let's close this out. We don't want to brush over, but we also want to keep it moving. And thank you, dude, for just the feedback and on that. And I think that's good discussion. So what I want to do, we got 4 questions for our first episode, and I kind of positioned them out for us. I read through them, but again, I want to both of us to jump in. So when we did our kickoff video at the bowling alley, got a question from Tony F from Michigan who wants to know, did you get that hat in Canada? And he was referring to the hat I was wearing. And so, indeed, I did. Josh and I both got that hat. We got it this past Thanksgiving from our brother Pete, who lives over in Canada, and with his wonderful wife Christine, his better half, and much better half, by the way. And so he gave each one of us these hats, and it says Canada already grade A. So I'm not going to get into the politics of it, but yes, apparently in order for you to get a hat, you have to go over to Thanksgiving in Canada and have a brother who's married to a wonderful gal from Canada. So that's the answer to that one. You got anything you want to add to that?
No, just funny wearing it because people do a double take. What hat are you wearing?
Yeah.
How dare you, or a thumbs up, like
it's interesting. It is. It gets a lot of reaction. I get either I love your hat or I get the double take of so it's either way I like it. So
yeah, I had a guy give me a thumb up and it turned into a finger when he got close enough to read it. And it's like yeah, man, make okay. And I was like, that reaction changed quick.
Yeah.
It was actually funny. I had to laugh. I was like, that's funny, bro.
Yeah. No, it's a good hat. It does get a lot of reaction. So, all right. So next one is sports related. It's from Mike B. From Michigan, and he wants to know, can you explain the love affair between the Lions front office and Ohio State? My loathing of the Nuts is making it difficult to remain a Lions fan. Of course, their performance over the course of my entire lifetime doesn't help either. So I'm gonna let you go first on that one because I can't explain the Lions in general. I mean, I've been a fan ever since Billy Sims, and another one bites the dust was the theme song and the Silver Rush way back when, all the way through obviously Barry, in my opinion, the greatest running back in the history of the league. But I want to give you a chance to explain that love affair. I'll let you go. I'm going to let you go because I got an opinion on it too.
You don't. What's his name again?
Mike B.
Okay, so Mike, first of all, let me just say that I'm not a Lions fan. And the only reason I'm not a Lions fan is because around the age of 9 or 10, I was watching how disappointed my brothers were being a Lions fan. And I thought, why would I put myself through this for the rest of my life? Literally. And so I became a San Francisco 49er fan. Not because I knew football well, but because I thought the jersey colors were kind of sweet. I know I'm sad, but but does it mean that I don't like the Lions and that I don't root for them? No, I really want them to win. And most of the people at my church are Lion fans and give me a hard time and always tell me they're going to go to the Super Bowl next year. And I always tell them back that, listen, this is a different kind of faith. This is the kind of faith that moves mountains.
Mountains move. Ain't no mountain high enough. Ain't no mountain moving.
If we had as much faith in God as Lions fans have in the Lions, this whole world, we wouldn't even be talking about racism right now. It would be transformation would happen. So listen, we got to sprinkle in reality though. They just make bad decisions. Nobody can explain to me why they even got rid of Caldwell. And now we've had 3 years of mediocrity, and we can say that he didn't do a great job, but at least they went to the playoffs and we're going the right direction. And nobody can explain that. So understand that they love, just hurting themselves. I've never seen people who like to shoot themselves in the foot more than the Lions organization as a whole.
Well, they hire bad too in management. That Matt Millen error, I don't get why the networks keep putting him on Michigan games, on Lions game. And I look at him and again, I know I'm not supposed to swear, but I swear, and I'm just like, do they not get that nobody in Michigan likes him? He might be one of the most hated people in Michigan, and yet you still want to, march him out in front of us. I don't want to hear what he has to say. I don't want to look at his face with all the damage that he's done. But that's a separate point. I want to go back and address his specific questions of the love affair with Ohio State. There's two things the Lions keep trying to recreate, in my opinion, with a lot of their drafts, right? Number one, Chris Spielman, who's probably the best, had the highest motor, best motor of all, our defensive line player that we've had, Ohio State guy. We forgive him for going to Ohio State, but that's okay. He's a Lions guy now, good guy from all accounts that I've heard of. So that's one thing. And then the second thing they keep trying to reproduce in their draft is Barry Sanders. It's never gonna happen again. You can't keep going after all these little, shifty shaker guys that, I want to see some north-south, downhill runners that will carry a guy 3, 4, 5 yards, and go that route. That's I was hoping we could have taken a run at Saquon, maybe because he has more of that north-south. But anyway, I can't explain the Lions. I don't want to spend a lot more brain damage on it, but that's my personal opinion in terms of that love affair with Ohio State, and then also some of their draft picks. I can't explain the tight ends and the wide receivers in terms of the first round. I don't even want to get into it anymore. If you're a Lions fan, you are certifiable, and you should just expect what you get and don't expect any difference. So that's it. That's the bottom.
It's an abusive relationship.
It is.
Get out or get used to getting abused.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. You chose wisely with the 49ers, brother. So, all right. We're going to move to question 3. And the last two are going to segue into our second to last topic here. And I got a little free advice before we get into that last segue, second to last segue here. So this is from Katie P. from Michigan. Hey, brothers, can you post a video on how to talk to our kid about what's going on right now? So, Josh has the perspective of, being a longtime youth pastor. I have 4 kids myself, and I'll kick this one off, Josh. I think just being honest with them, and honest to the level and the age in which they are, right? I don't think it's wise to take a 3-year-old who can't process the potential impact and scariness of it. But I think having honest conversation and engaging them, and even to the point of one of the things I did with my daughter Hannah, I said, you're my lieutenant with the Clorox wipes. You need to make sure that you protect the family and wipe down doorknobs and light switches, and be in charge there. So we talk about it. She knows what's going on, but I'm also engaging her and giving her a job. And this is everyone's going to remember this for a long, long time, so that's just one thing. I think being honest and as direct as you can without overwhelming them is the best policy, because kids see through all the BS that you can put at them anyway. So I'll let you take a crack.
And so I would not talk about the political nature of who's dying most at all. Or the, racial, but I think, I'm a former science teacher, and then I turned to a dean. And so for me, this is if I was a teacher right now, this would be I don't want to say an amazing moment. There's nothing amazing about 80,000 people dead in America, almost 300,000 in the world. But it's a clear it helps drive home this point of there are these invisible things, these called viruses that some are very helpful and some are very dangerous, and you can spread them from person to person, from object to person, animal to person. I know I'm being scientific right now, but for me, I would depending on their age, if they're 8 years or older, I would have a scientific conversation with them.
That's
because
good.
I've taught 3rd grade, and even at 3rd grade, you can talk through some of this, and do activities where they have powder that they can't see on their hands until you have a black light, and so you just, put it somewhere in the house, and then by the end of the day, hit this black light, and they see they got all this stuff on their hands, and talk about that's basically what a virus is. That it's something you can't see, but can, get on you or inside of you. And depending on the virus, like we have a ton of viruses in our body that are literally helpful, that keep us alive. This one is very deadly. This one is very harmful to people. This one can hurt a lot of people, and that's why it's important for us to wash our hands, to do certain things so that we're not getting this invisible thing.
Not exposing ourselves.
Yeah.
That leads us. Go ahead.
And just for parents to understand, if you don't know, and I'm sure you do, that unlike bacteria, where you have a ton of helpful bacteria in you too, way more than viruses. You have some dormant viruses in you that never do anything, but bacteria is actually alive. And so your body can heat up and kill it, or your body can do certain things to kill it. You can take medicines that will kill it off. Viruses are not alive. They're not considered alive or dead, which is one of the only things in the world that we don't consider dead or alive. So all the stuff that you can do for bacteria to curb bacteria, you can't do for viruses, because they're not alive. So that's why viruses are so much more dangerous, because they're impossible to kill because they're not alive. So your body's heating up as what it would do for a bacteria, and usually the bacteria would die off at a certain level of temperature. The viruses is like, all right, keep heating up, kill yourself. So, I would do some of the science stuff of it, and I would actually do an activity with them where you see the virus spread. Like I said, if you get this, dust, there's some powder that is, basically invisible to the eye until you have black light. It's a great moment to really help them understand how, our world works a little bit scientifically. And then they're not as afraid, because they realize, oh,
now I know what to do.
But I need to be aware, because this can be very dangerous to me. So that's how I probably would go about it. But I'm talking to you as somebody without kids. So
I think that's good. I think that's great perspective. And so we got one more question on the same topic before we move into, and it's similar, but this is from Olivia S. from Illinois. Your niece would like to know how to avoid getting the coronavirus. And I think that I have a pretty solid guess about which niece asked this, but I could be wrong. So I think it might be our middle niece who asked that. I would just say, just like Uncle Rick Mahorn did in our little shout out video there, wash your hands, nasties. I mean, it's that simple. Take those steps to. I'm kind of a germaphobe, neatnik type of thing. I have hand sanitizer everywhere I go. I use my sleeve to open doors. This is even before, COVID-19 came around, I hear people cough and I get away. I'm just kind of that guy, I just, I think everybody's nasty to start with, but so I think just taking those precautions, wash your hands, and try not to touch common surfaces. And, anyway, I'll let you jump into.
Yeah. Again, scientifically, understand how things get passed. A communicable disease means that it can be passed through a community, or we call it communicable, or also, it is, I'm drawing a blank now, but you can get it. You can catch it from somebody, and just understanding that there's really only 4 ways that this disease can spread, right? From person to person. So how am I interacting with other people? It is why I'm frustrated with people who won't wear a mask. I understand they think this is about I'm free and I can do what I want to do. And my whole thing to them is you are free, but you should be free to care enough about other people too. The mask is not for
responsibility. That's right.
The mask is not for you. It's so that because they're starting to realize there's a higher and higher population of people who are asymptomatic, meaning they have it, but it doesn't bother them at all, but they're actually more contagious because they don't. So listen, I would say, first of all, understand that it can go person to person, animal to person, item to person, thing to person. So when I know that, then I know that I need to consider, and it's not really animal to person right now. There's only been a few animals who have it, but person to object. So that means that I need to be making sure that I'm wiping down objects. We grew up in a home with a mom who's German. And so that means right off, if you're a German person, you understand that order matters and cleanliness matters. And so I'm almost OCD with cleanliness. Like I go overboard with this stuff. I always have a wipe with me, so I know which niece we're talking to. Always have a wipe. Have some in your car. and keep it in your pocket. Wipe your hands 4 or 5 times when you're in somewhere. When you leave out, wipe down your car door, wipe down I go crazy. I make sure that wipe is totally doesn't have any more stuff on it before I throw it out. I want
We
to
went
use it well.
bowling the other day. What did I bring with me?
Wipes.
And this is before the
Yeah.
lockdown or anything. I walked down, brought wipes with us, wiped down all of our surface area. Was kind of judgmental to the guy who was handing out the shoes because he was coughing. This is before this whole thing broke out, right? Wiped down everything on that whole bowling alley. So
Tell you what, if you were in my house, you might get wiped down. I'm just telling you that right now. What, my wife want a kiss? Let me wipe your lips down first. I just don't know. No, I'm not. I'm just playing. I'm just playing. That'll kill the romance real quick. But the bottom line is understand that stuff is passed from people to people and from object to people. And so now how I deal with people, and that when I'm around stuff, just to wipe it down or to be, I'm concerned about what is around me matters.
Okay. All right, cool. So we're gonna play a video. Josh and I were able to interview a young lady who lives over in Italy, and we'll go to that in a second. Now, again, here's a little free advice from your uncles. Josh and I actually tested out Skype with our recordings, right? And so we did it, and I tested it out one other time as well. But what we didn't realize that if somebody's dialing into Skype with your phone and they're using it in portrait mode versus landscape, Skype for some reason automatically cuts it down to landscape. So unfortunately, the video we have of Federica that you'll see here shortly it's cut off halfway. And so we'll know this going forward. Again, don't kill us on the comments. I'm not going to even respond to that garbage because don't have a paid assistant. I only have a free intern right now. So, we're doing the best we can with this to get you guys some content. But so anyway, take that into account. I think it's a good conversation that we had with her, and we'll jump into that. And then one more thing too, Josh, I don't know if you see the do here.
I saw you got a baby fro. I ain't seen you with the fro.
I know, since my Florida Evans days. I know.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the thing. So the facial hair. I'm trying to be like Josh. No, I'm growing it out. I'm calling it my kill COVID-19 rally beard. Number one, and then number two. Obviously, I haven't been able to get to the barber. Love my guy, Jaman up in Flint, and Sam and I both go regularly. So two things I'm doing, Josh, that I wanted to share with you. Number one, what I need to look into Locks of Love, and that's an organization or an organization like that basically if you cut off your hair, I know a lot of ladies do it, who grow their hair long, they cut it off. So that organization makes wigs for, kids or people who have cancer and need, a hair or something, a wig to kind of not have a bald head. So I want to look into that. I don't even know if there's a lot of, African-American opportunities or people donating for, people who are, Black African-American for that. So if my hair grows long enough, that's one thing. And my hair grows pretty quick. So that's the one thing I want to do. But the second thing that I'm doing, Josh, is that money that I normally would have been paying to my barber, who Sam and I both really love up in, like I said, up in Flint, Jaman, we're saving, I'm just basically saving up that money and I'm going to give it to him all at once, just because he's going through those small businesses like his are taking a huge hit. So, that's one of the things that I'm also doing as well, just to kind of help offset some of his bills that he may be incurring. I don't know if he would even be eligible to, apply for some of these, loans and things that are out there. So I want to encourage everybody else to think about a couple of things. Number one, if you're pulling up a paw here and growing it out and letting it go and au naturel, and you can pull something like this off. I know some of my follically challenged friends out there can't help in that area with the Locks of Love type of thing. But if you think about it and you can, if you've kept your job and you have the resources you normally would have been paying out, maybe think about doing something like that and give a nice healthy tip that would have accumulated all that. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know that's kind of what's going on with my face. It's still the same ugliness, but even under here, but that's okay. That's what's going on with the hair right now.
All I know is they haven't seen nothing yet. If you let that fro grow out like it used to be with some straight wings on that boy.
Woo-hoo. This big. Woo-hoo. Had his own Twitter account, Paul's Afro.
Man, I'm telling you. took up the front and back seat. Y'all don't know.
Hey, it needs its own seatbelt. All right, so we're going to play the interview with Federica. I hope you all enjoy that. Good morning. This is the first episode of Free Advice from Your Uncle. And Federica, you and I have been Facebook friends for I think 8 or 9 years now, right?
Well, it's a while, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So Federica, this is my brother Josh.
Hi.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
It's great to meet you.
So Federica, you live in Italy, and
Yes.
my brother Josh, you know everything that's going on in the world with the pandemic, and so we just wanted to kind of reach out to you and just ask a couple of questions and just kind of understand what's going on over there in the world with you all and just how you're adjusting. And so I guess the first question that I want to ask is, how are you doing and how is your family doing? And can you tell us a little bit about yourself for those who don't know you?
Just to start.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm fine. I'm physically, psychologically okay. I'm facing this moment, trying to just do things I never have the opportunity to do in life. Still in this mood because it's more than 45 days actually that we are in lockdown in Italy. So at the beginning, many people would talk this way, but now it seems to be very stressing, to stay home and observe what lockdown says to do.
Yeah.
I live with my son, 13 years old, and it's just the two of us here in Reggio Emilia. My three sisters live around Italy, in center Italy. And so it's like Christmas time, I don't see them because after that there was not the opportunity to travel through Italy. And this is what happens to me. I'm pretty lucky because I live in the countryside. I live in a little village near Bologna, more or less. And just behind my house, I have forest. I can walk through the nature. So it's what I do every single day. Like with my dog, I do like 1 hour walking. And as I am a yoga teacher, I do yoga every day. I do pranayama every day, which is a breathing technique in yoga. And my other job is to make clothes for tango dancers. I am also a tango dancer. And I'm trying to work a little on this as well. We are thinking to put our items on a website and do some online sell. But we cannot meet each other to make pictures, so we're just starting now to work on this project. But by the way, all my jobs are stuck.
I was going to ask if you were impacted from a work or perspective.
I am, but I am a blessed person in some way. Don't frighten me. My husband died 3 years ago, and so I'm taking his pension. Pension is the right word. Yeah,
that's the right word.
So
yes.
it's like each month I have something to live with.
Oh, good.
So I'm not a disaster. It's okay, but of course. I love my job and I wish to do them quickly to be back at that.
Yeah. Josh, do you have any questions for Federica?
Yeah, so you're starting a new business. Is that what you're saying in the middle of this? You're starting a new clothing business?
Well, I'm trying to transform what I was doing, what I was supposed to do, because I sell my clothes, my tango clothes, during tango events, you know.
Oh,
So
gotcha.
now you cannot see when tango events will start again. There's we don't have an idea, because you know, when you dance tango, your
Very
heart,
close,
your
yeah.
heart,
Yes.
you're almost month on month. It's very difficult to see when it will be possible to get back at that reality.
Yeah.
So I have to, you know, completely put upside down the way I work. So the business already exists. I just have to do in another way. I just online, like everybody does do.
Yeah. I like that. I like the word transform, that it's transforming.
Yeah. It's like a word very, very used in this moment, you know. I don't know in USA, but transforming is something that you always hear now.
Yeah, no, for sure. So Federica, so you've been impacted from just how you're doing work right now, but can you just tell us a little bit about how other small businesses in the country are being impacted, because they're being impacted pretty heavily here in the United States?
Well, all small business like mine are completely impacted by this, because they are not considered fully needed job, you know. Only things, the alimentary chain is going on.
They call it essential business and workers here.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
So all the things you don't really need in life are locked down, are stopped. So all this business is impacted by this. And central government is giving 600 euros to each activity. Like this, or sports trainer, because also them, you know, well, all these are taking this money, but all those people who didn't have any contract, any VAT, VAT, IVA, VAT, how do you say? When you can do invoice, if you have a business, when you work in black, you say that if you don't have any contract, nobody knows you're working, but you're working.
You have to show revenue. Is that what it is? Prior revenue and money that you've made money in the past?
Well, it's the way to work when nobody knows you do that. I mean, government don't know, because you don't have any contract.
Gotcha.
You just
no license or contracts. Gotcha.
Okay, so all those people are very, very impacted, because nobody knows about them. Government would help them, but you know, nobody knows who they are, where to find them, because you cannot find them in any database, in any.
Yeah, we have some of those people here too that just kind of fall between the cracks, that are have gig jobs, I guess, or maybe didn't file taxes, and they're not going to get some of the assistance here too. So I get what you're saying there. Yeah.
The term we use here is under the table.
Yeah.
Under the table.
Under the table. So not above the table where people can usually see it, but under the table. So understood.
It sounds pretty good. You can understand.
Yes.
In Italy we say to work in black.
Okay, gotcha.
Work in black is to work under the table.
Gotcha. Interesting. Well, Federica, do they have any estimate of when they're going to start easing the lockdown for you all at all, or is there any time frame that they're talking about?
Yeah, well, apparently it's gonna be May the 3rd.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
Okay.
Okay. Well, slowly, not just everybody opens up shops
Yeah.
and everybody goes where they want, not this way, just little by little,
Yeah.
They're gonna open a library, kids shops, something strange apparently, no, the kind of business they choose, but by the way, it's something, something
Yeah.
that will it suppose you to go out for other reasons than rather than
Mm-hmm.
go to shop for food or for medicine, maybe.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, are there, obviously they're allowing you to go out to shop for food, and when you go out, are people wearing masks there? Do you wear masks when you go out?
I do.
Oh.
Yes, I do. I made my mask because it was impossible to find one.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
at the end, the region mailed them to every family.
Oh.
Some masks, yes, for free. So
Oh, okay.
the one arrived is for my son. He didn't have one, but he doesn't go out because he's not very impacted by this lockdown, because with the computer for him is an opportunity to get in better in what he wants to do.
Okay.
Of course, for me, it's like, no, don't say that much on those things. But I'm trying to resist also this thing and to collaborate with him, because of course, what can he do? Sometimes he read, he make lessons in the morning, but 24 hours are 24, so he can do. By the way, yes, I go out only on Wednesday morning when I go to do my food shopping.
Gotcha.
I went out last Saturday because I had to go to the post office, and in the scrapyard. I had to go. Yes, scrapyard.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have my mask, I have my gloves in the car, always there. When I get down my car, I'm with this. I'm trying to observe strictly what I have to do. I'm trying to do my own contribute to this moment.
For sure. Are other people adhering to it also that you see out? Are most people wearing masks if they are out?
When I go to the shop, to the market, almost everybody has got a mask and gloves. Good. Almost everybody.
Gotcha.
But people is relaxing a little in this moment because they very tired to stay home to observe all these. So last week was Easter time, and here in Italy was so sunny, beautiful,
good.
beautiful days, and so people started to go around to the second house on the seaside, maybe, or a meeting in a big group, like 30, and eating together. It was like crazy because I understand we are all tired, but if you do this way, you fucked up what everybody is doing,
Yeah, exactly. Well, Federica, I got to tell you, when we were messaging each other about doing this interview, you told me that, you needed to brush up on your English. Your English is awesome. It is great.
Thank you.
It is excellent.
Excellent. Yes, for sure.
Thank you very much.
Well, Federica, listen, I know it's early in the day and you're probably trying to get your day going, but Josh, do you have any other questions? Because I want to let Federica get on with her day and
Not a question, but just a statement that our teenagers are are doing the exact same
yes.
thing. I
Same.
laughed when you said it didn't impact him as much because our teenagers are exactly the same way. If they have a computer in front of them or a phone, they seem to be okay.
Yeah, yeah. It's like I ask him, come with me and the dog. We have the excuse of the dog to go out for a while, for a little. Of course, I go much further, but I'm alone in the forest, so nobody would disagree this. He look at me like, are you crazy or what? I'm not interested in it.
That's a universal reaction.
Yes.
Exactly, exactly. What is going to happen here in Italy is that people is divided in three big categories. I'm gonna tell you this if you
Yeah.
want.
Yes, please.
People who observe what central government scientists and says to do.
Mhm.
Then there's like now like 50% that he doesn't want to follow anymore these things, and are part of them by the right, in terms of political
Yes.
idea.
Mm-hmm.
The others are, we call them catastrophisti, or those who always thinks that behind what government says, there's a big, idea
Conspiracy.
of
Yes.
disrupting economy, freedom. I mean, everything can be. I'm not saying this is not true, you're crazy, because who knows,
Mm-hmm.
really, one day we will know, like years later,
Yeah.
we understood what happened to the towers in
Right.
USA. We got
Yeah.
a way to understand what. I just know that it's a very bad virus. It's very easy to take, and so this idea to I'm going out, they're going out for the 25th of April, because in Italy it's the party for freedom, when we got liberated from the Nazis and fascists. No,
Mm-hmm.
this is
Mm-hmm.
our
Mm-hmm.
national day of libertà, the day of
Yeah.
the libertà, the freedom. And so they wanted to go down the street and do this march for freedom. I'm like, no, please, we cannot go from the lockdown to be in hundreds of people
Yeah.
together this way. I understand everything. Go out, go for a walk, but go alone at the moment. Try to. This is happened too.
Yeah. Interesting. Interesting.
And what about USA, guys? Tell me about you.
Well, I think that we
Find
have a
some
lot of
similarity, yeah.
yeah, I think we have a lot of the same divisions and groups that you mentioned
Yes.
as well. And I think with the United States, there's 50 states, and you have the two parties. You have the Democratic and the Republican parties, and so I think there's different approaches per state, depending on what party you're in terms of your leanings and your approach. There's been protests on the individual state levels that have been taking place recently because they're fighting against the lockdown rules that the governors of the states have imposed. But it's not been overtly blatant. There's some beaches that are opened up in Florida, I believe, that
Yes.
for certain hours they're trying to ease those too, but we just don't have enough data yet, and we don't have the testing in the United States that's
Yeah.
taking place in a lot of countries in Europe, and to really understand how big this virus is. I'll let Josh comment too.
Yeah, so our testing, we've only tested basically 1 to 2% of our population. And so we have no idea. You know,
Of
I, I, I
course.
was I was reading an article from one of the universities, Stanford in
Yeah.
California. They are testing just one city to see how many people have antibodies, how many people had this who did not go to the hospital, and they're only I think like halfway through the city, but they said their numbers, based on the antibodies, is 50 to 85% more people than they thought has come in contact with this. So we don't really even know. We're so far behind the curve, and we already, what's interesting is you're talking about 45 days in, people are starting to, they want to celebrate their Liberty Day. We are a month in, and we're starting to have protests where people are saying, no, I'm done with this. So it's and that includes going to the state capitol, thousands of them going and hanging out together, which is not healthy. I do understand, because we had a new set of rules put in place where we can't basically get seeds or go get paint, and that really infuriated people, which I actually understand.
Of
Feeling like
course.
you're,
Yeah.
yeah, like you're feeling like people are treating you like a little kid, but I also understand, man, this virus spreads fast and it's deadly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Absolutely.
The
Yeah.
other thing, Federica, is that because the country is so big geographically,
Hmm.
and like New York is starting to peak in terms of they're the biggest epicenter right now, but you have other hotspots like Atlanta, Florida, New Orleans. We don't know where these pockets and waves, because of how quickly or slowly the various states have implemented lockdown.
Hmm.
So with the freedom that people have to travel from state to state, we just don't know what that long-term impact is
Yeah.
going to
That's what
do.
happened here too,
Okay.
At the
Uh,
beginning, when people heard about lockdown, wow, rail station were completely full of people that wanted to
Hmm.
go back in south.
mm,
And what is happened here is that the south of Italy, which is historically where people work less, there's less business, it's more all about tourism.
mm,
It's going good. They didn't have much, contagious in between people. It's all in north, and in
mm,
particular in one region, Lombardia, which is the symbol of the business, the people that
Hmm.
go do, and so it's something to think about also, and they want to go back to the reality. They want to go back to work, and they're dying. There's so
Yeah.
many
mm,
people dying there.
mm,
It's like crazy.
mm.
Don't you see your brothers and sisters are dying, and
Right.
you go back to, I mean, I want to go back to my life, I
Yeah.
want to go back too, but I don't know, but I wouldn't talk bad about any position, because I really feel empathy with anybody
Hmm.
position, because I understand that it's very, very hard now
Mhm.
Yeah.
to face this moment. It's crazy. It's something that, wow,
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
one day to another one, it's like boom, completely changed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Everybody
it
died.
has. It has.
Yeah.
Well, Federica, again, you've been so gracious with your time, and we appreciate
It's
you,
a
and we'll be
pleasure to meet
thinking
you
about
guys.
you and your
Yes.
family. And
Thank you. Stay safe.
yes,
It's
you
Yes.
too.
You too.
where are you from? Where do you live?
Yeah, we live in the Detroit metro area, Detroit, Michigan.
Yeah,
Yep, that's where
yeah.
we
Yep.
grew
Both
up.
of you. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. And where I'm at, we're one of the epicenters. We're one of the places where there's a lot of sickness, a lot of death. So, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. North, east. No?
Yeah. We're kind of Midwest more.
Yeah.
Michigan is
Midwest.
the thumb, and we always represent the mitten here,
Okay.
in terms
I
of
see.
where we live. Yeah. We live in Southeast Michigan, but yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Federica, thank you
Okay.
again,
Thank you.
and it's good that you keep trying to make your son go for walks with you. It's good for
Okay, I'll try.
him.
You
All
are
right.
not alone with your
Yes.
teenager. That's what you need to know.
Yes, exactly. I have four
Bye,
teenagers,
guys.
so I got you. Hey, bye-bye. Take it easy.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, Josh. All right. So again, Josh, apologies to everybody for that, that lapse of not knowing, but again, we haven't recorded a ton of, Skype calls. So again, if you're going to record a Skype call in the future, make sure anybody who's dialing in with your cell phone that they turn it to portrait mode, and hopefully that will remediate that. And we'll test it out for the next time that we do it as well. So Josh, we're going to end the call here with just a couple of one more item here, and that is Downton Abbey. We are going to review episode 1, and we're going through. Now, listen, I know a lot of you are like, what in the world are two brothers from Detroit doing watching Downton Abbey? And I got to tell you, my wife got me hooked in on this long time ago, and it was, going. And I got to tell you, it's worth watching here, So it's not for everybody, but I'm challenging my brother to watch it and watch it through, and we can discuss it. For those of you who have not watched it or want to rewatch it or watch along with us, maybe you want to pause this, go watch it, and then come back to this section because we're gonna be talking about what happened in the first episode, season 1, episode 1. So anyway, I'll throw it over to you, and I just want to get your thoughts in terms of that time period, what's going on with it, and then just kind of some of the initial thoughts of some of the characters.
Yeah, man, first of all, it was just interesting to see that time period, right?
Mm-hmm.
To see, I want to say it was 1800s. Assuming,
No,
or
early
19,
or 1900s. Yeah.
early 19. But just how much technology and things have evolved, right? Because they're running little telegrams or doing all this kind of
We were
stuff.
talking about lights, electricity coming into the houses on that first episode.
Oh yeah. So that was interesting because it was like taking you back. And I in this first episode, I don't know if I'm hooked yet, but I'm just a little interested to see what goes on with some of the interactions. I'm not all the way hooked into it yet, but the new guy who just got there, is it Carlson?
Bates. That's Bates.
Bates. See, yeah, Bates. The way they're kind of doing him right off makes me like, okay, let's see where this goes, because he's just getting into work at Downton Abbey, and it seems like, maybe not everybody, but it seems like from this first episode, quite a few people are kind of salty that he showed up.
This is enough. So we talked about white privilege earlier on. We talked about male privilege, and I think that we need to talk. This episode addresses physical privilege, right? I think that we take for granted what it's like to have a disability or to be born with a disability, right? And to be accepted into the workforce or community or wherever it is, right? We were talking about the COVID. One of the senators, and I can't remember her name, but she was talking about how one of the senators contracted the COVID and was working out in I guess they have a gym in Congress or the Senate. And they one of the talking heads on one of the news shows said, "Hey, have you been in there?" And she's like, "Nope, it's not accessible to me. I'm in wheelchair bound." And I'm just like, wow. I mean, this is our United States Senate, and she can't even get in there to do her thing too. But it's another, I don't want to get it back into it again too much right now, but it's another privilege that we just all take, like breathing air, right? We just take it for granted, So that's one thing you talk about with Bates there in terms of just the stigma that he has there. Challenge, can you get it done? How these stairs going to do you?
Yeah, and everybody's looking at him cross-eyed.
Yeah,
except for
Anna,
the gentleman who's in charge of the estate.
Oh,
sorry, I don't know names, but as I watch more of this, I'll know the names.
Yeah. No, yeah, the main guy, right? So yeah, that's exactly
Lord,
right. I mean,
whatever his name is.
Yeah, Lord,
His name is Lord something, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's slipping my mind right now too. But they were war boys, they were in the war together. But you see the disparity that comes back. Now, my man has got it, going on in terms of, the spread he's got going on there. And you talk about a crew. I mean, you got to have some serious paper, some serious brass, some serious copper to keep a staff like that and a house like that. And for you to wake up, for you to have your own personal dude that comes and picks up your outfit, your valet, and dresses you like that, dude. That's your job, man. And you take a little brush and brush you off and do your thing, man. I mean, you got to have some serious coin,
Yeah. So, what I was thinking about too is a few things. One, you see the privilege of these really wealthy lords and their manners. And, you struggle with, the money, like, wow, really? And what's interesting is this idea that a gentleman was somebody who didn't really work. He was a man of leisure.
Right.
He did do work, but it was really leisure. And I thought, man, anybody who would act leisurely like that here would be called lazy.
They look down on people who have titles that we respect in the States, like lawyer, doctor. Right? Then they look down on them like, why don't you get this for me, bro? Pull the milkshake like on, Coming to America when Daryl just threw the milkshake on Eddie Murphy.
All on his chest. Got them all.
One of my favorite
strawberry
scenes, dude,
milkshake.
I call it just getting milkshake, dude. He had that attitude. Get this for me, dog. So you're exactly right. And one of the characters, dude, that is just cold scant, and you can just the look on her face too, is O'Brien, who kicked the cane out from Bates there too. And it's just like, dude, wow. You just got to have some seriously no heart at all for you to do that to my man who's trying to, you don't want to be on she's the Bill Laimbeer of that you want her on your team. You don't want to be playing against her,
Yeah, what's interesting is even though this is high society, England, so we're talking about, white, they got some hood rats up in there. They got some, like O'Brien is a straight up hood rat.
Dog, you would get shanked in jail if you were sitting in prison with her, dude. You would get shanked from the heartbeat. You wouldn't even know it's coming from her. I mean, it's just, dude, it is cold. So yeah, man, out cold. But I tell you what else too, that Carson, the head butler, I need somebody like that running my show. I need somebody like that who is just like got it going on, taking personal response. That's who you want to hire. You want to hire somebody like a Carson who's like keeping folks in line, and you want a Carson on your staff for sure.
Yeah, he keeps that stick cracking. I mean, he's on him, and what's so interesting, he's not like this nasty, mean taskmaster. No. It's a sense of pride, and we do everything with excellence. That's why we got it.
And he knows how to poke you in the eye too with just his comments. He'll make him go. It's Lord Crowley,
Lord Crowley.
Yeah. So Lady Mary, that's the daughter that is she bugs me to tears, boy. I just can't stand she's embracing her titles, and I'll tell you that right now. So she just a comment that she bugs me a little bit though.
Well, even though she was like, "Do we got to mourn? Somebody died."
Right. Exactly.
And somebody in the family, she was like, "Do I really got to mourn?" I was like,
she's
"Wow."
Kind of like the rich. She's kind of like the rich O'Brien. If she didn't have all the money, she might be shanking you too, man. You gotta, just anyway. So last person I wanna talk about that I fell in love with from the first beginning and love her to death is Lady Viola Crowley. Dog, she just says things. I want to get to that age where I can just say what I want to say and not even care. I want to be able to walk into a room and be like, and just say it sleight of hand too, and just kind of look at you to see if you even got what I said.
Hey, that's what I'm saying. There's some gangsters in this
I
thing. So I
know.
was like, okay, what does my brother got me watching? That's exactly what I thought. But I was like, okay, for this, I'll do it. But then I started seeing, I said, there's two or three gangsters in this.
I know.
And she
I
is
know.
straight. She will cut you,
I know.
watch you bleed, and act like there's nothing going on.
And act like it's your fault, dude.
Yeah, like, yeah, why'd you
Yeah,
cut
dude.
yourself? You're
Yeah,
the
dude.
one with
I
the
mean,
knife?
she's the godmother. She's running the show there too. She's pulling the strings. I'm telling you. I keep an eye on her too. So anyway, dude, that I just wanted to cover that with you. We'll cover episode 2 on our next show too, and so I'll give you some parting shout outs here before we call it a day. This first one's a little bit longer than we wanted to normally go, folks, just so you know. But again, it felt like it was important to just kind of address the Ahmad situation as well. And then normally we'll keep it on point going forward, unless something else happens that we need to address. So I'll leave it to you. You want to end any say anything, any parting
Yeah, I
shot?
do. I've been making these top 10 rules of going out in COVID. And so let me give you one, and I'll
All
give
right.
you one each time.
All right.
Listen, don't look like you have COVID when you go out. You understand what I'm saying? Like the other day, I got up and I was a little scraggly, and I had on my work clothes. I have these sweatpants. I got a little oil stain in them that I use in the basement stuff, and I hadn't brushed my teeth, and then I was about to go out. But the problem is that if I would have went out looking like that, even though I don't have COVID, everybody would have thought I had COVID. So let me just give you some advice from your uncle. When you go out, don't look, whether you have it or not, don't look like you have it.
You been spying on me, dude? Did you pull that one out just for me? Because
No,
I don't.
I've been I got 10 of these.
Okay.
I'm
All right.
working on I'm working on this idea of having COVID refs, like NFL refs, and I have
Call
some
it penalties.
that's right. That's right.
All
That's right.
right.
Let me give you one of the penalties that I'd have to blow the whistle and throw the flag on.
All right.
It, when you are roughing the shopper, that means you got up on me and bumped into me.
Ooh.
When you are roughing the shopper, when you bump up on somebody else, that's roughing the shopper. That's a
Dude,
15-yard penalty.
I love it. I'm gonna give you an example of what happened to me. I was out, so I try and get out, just at least walk, because I'm out of my workout routine. Can't get to the gym, can't get my runs in like I could, and the cement is just really hard on my knees running on the streets, right, versus the treadmill. But so I'm out taking my walk, and I'm walking at a fairly brisk pace, but nice day out. Have my headphones in, listening to something. I can't even remember what I was listening to. Homegirl, wide open street, not a just me. Homegirl comes over, like almost. I felt her breeze. Didn't have a mask on, didn't have anything on, and I'm just like, you got the whole street, homegirl. How can you got to run that close to me? I was incensed by it. I just stopped walking and looked at her. She had her back to me, and I'm just like, I wanted to say something, but dude, I'm not trying to get shot up in here. So
Did she bump you?
no, but she was close enough to where I felt the breeze when she
Yeah.
ran by. She didn't even try to go to the middle of the street
Yeah.
on the other side, and I was over to the right. So
Yeah,
anyway,
that's a 10-yard penalty. That's
that
called encroachment.
that is
Encroaching on my
big
territory.
time. That's roughing the walker too. You could call that one too. Roughing the walker. So because I'm quarterback material, baby. You can't really touch me. I have the
See,
special
Paul, I'm
helmet and
serious that I'm
everything.
thinking about getting a referee shirt and have a
You
whistle
know,
and have a little.
dog.
I know it sounds funny, but I would love to be in the store and see somebody do something, and just blow the whistle and drop the thing and say that's
Dude,
roughing the.
you got that. So I'm gonna tell you one other. So I'm here's some free advice from your uncle, from Uncle Paul. Since we're talking about it and in the show this way, here's what I'm gonna tell you. If you're out walking, and there's a lot of people out walking in the neighborhood, in the subdivision we live in, it's kind of like this big loop, right? You've been in there, right? So you can walk. It's like a mile and a half loop if you go around one time, right? But here's what I'm gonna tell you. We live in America. We drive on the right-hand side of the streets.
Hmm.
We do not drive. We're not a socialist country. We are a capitalist country, which means we drive on the right. And I'm not even going to talk about England, right? Because they do things a little bit backwards over there too. Forgive me for all my English friends over there, but you know I love you anyway. But we drive on the right-hand side of the street. On the right-hand side. Don't be a socialist. Walk on the right-hand side of the street too. Don't come over here and then expect me to move over to the left, because I'm going to tell you what, we're going to bump heads right where we are. Plain and simple. And I got to tell you, I bogart a little bit too. I'm just like, I ain't moving. And walk on the right side. There's the whole wide open street. So anyway, that's my we got to figure out a penalty for that one too.
We do. That's just regular etiquette. That's not even
That's
COVID etiquette. That's just regular before COVID etiquette that people have lost.
Thank you. Everywhere.
But
thank you.
But then there's some COVID etiquette.
That's right. All right, brother. That's it. Episode 1. It's a wrap. Love you, dude.
All right. Love you too, man.
Bye.
Bye.